Hello everybody, my name is Matt Chaquan, aka Recluse, and I'm here for Roland, here at Sam Ash, going to show you the brand new creative powerhouse, the DJ-808. Okay, before we get to the fun stuff, we need to talk a little bit about the basics of how the DJ-808 works with Serato DJ. Crucial to this is beat grids and the sync engine. Without beat grids set properly, your sync's not going to work. It's going to sound like shoes in the dryer, 1,000 horses. People are going to run off the dance floor screaming. So don't do that. Make sure that you analyze all your tracks in Serato DJ first. So to set beat grids, you're going to want to analyze your tracks. To do that, you're going to have to unplug from your DJ-808 and enter what we call offline mode. Now you have access to the Analyze Files buttons, as well as this analysis settings where you can choose what you're going to analyze for. So we have the option to set key or set beat grid BPM. Make sure that set beat grid BPM box is ticked, and then you're going to drag your track into the Analyze Files button. Alternatively, you'll have an option here to analyze your entire library. If you want to do that, I'd suggest setting your computer up overnight to do it, especially if you have a big library. It's going to take a little while. Okay, once you've done that, you can plug back in, and we load the track up, and now you can see there's a grid overlaid our song. So right here, we have a red line with a number 1 next to it that denotes the first measure, the first beat of the first measure, and that red line is what we call a beat warp marker. That stays in place, much like a warp marker in Ableton Live. That's not going to move around unless you use the slide function, which you're not going to need to use very much in all honesty. Later on down, if you look at the grid, we see some white lines, and those are regular beat markers. Now, those have the ability to slide back and forth. You're usually not going to have to do that. Serato DJ is pretty good at laying in the beat grid, finding the transients, and determining the BPM. Occasionally, it might drift over time, so you're going to have to shift those a little bit, and I'll show you how to do that momentarily. Now, if you don't see the beat grids, you're going to want to go to your setup screen, DJ preferences, under sync preferences, make sure that one of the sync modes is selected. I have simple sync selected. And also make sure that snap to beat grid is selected, because that will display your beat grid. Okay, so what happens if you need to edit the grid? With the DJ-808, we have dedicated beat grid editing controls, which is pretty cool. All you need to do is hold this ADJ and turn the platter, and you're going to see that the beat grid is moving. Now, the one thing that isn't moving is the beat warp marker. So that's locked in place, but the other ones will move around. And you're only going to need to do that if perhaps the grid slides over a little bit over time, if it drifts, like so. Occasionally, Serato DJ will misinterpret the start of the song. If there's a fill there or something, it will often put the beat warp marker at the beginning of that fill. Now, if you need to fix that, the process is holding shift, and you're going to hit clear, and now you can see that the beat grid is gone, and I'm going to line it up again, and holding shift again, I'm going to hit set. So I've just written in another beat warp marker at the beginning, and I can slide through the track, and I can see that it's fairly accurate, but indeed I'm going to have to slide that over just a little bit, adjust, there we go. So analyzing quantized music is a pretty straightforward process for Serato DJ. The tempo doesn't vary. But what happens if you're playing unquantized music, or perhaps music that has a transition, a tempo transition in the middle of it? Let me show you very quickly how you can create a beat grid manually to fix that. So if we're going to hold shift and clear to get rid of the beat grid. And this is a song that's been played by a live band. So we're just going to hit play here. Before I do that, I'm going to first put in the beat warp marker by holding shift and set. You see I've lined up the playhead to the very beginning of the track. I'm just going to hit play, and I'm just going to do a couple of these to show you how to do it. And it's the exact same process, holding shift and set on the downbeat of every measure, so that it can follow the tempo variations. So there's another one, set, set, and so on and so forth. So manually setting beat grids on unquantized music can be a little bit time consuming, but there's a lot of creative dividends. My suggestion is just focus on the part of the song that you might want to use, perhaps the break, or with a transition track, you only need to focus on the portion of the song where the time actually changes. Now, an important note, a couple other reasons why you want to have tight beat grid in all your Serato tracks, not only for sync, but if you're using advanced features like slicer or auto loop, loop roll, tempo licked effects, or Quantize. Those all depend highly on an accurate beat grid So really recommend spending the time and setting them up, and then you can jam with confidence. So once you get the beat grid set up, you're now ready to start syncing things. Pretty straightforward. You've got sync buttons on both decks. You have a sync button on the TRS. If you want to say sync the TRS tempo to the tempo of the track, now I'm just going to change that so it's different. And now when I hit sync, you're going to see the tempo on the TRS now matches the tempo of the track. Now if I want to go the other way and say match the tempo of my Serato deck to the TRS, I'm going to hit sync on here, and there you go. Now it matches 127 beats per minute. Now anytime I have sync devices, if I change the tempo on one, it's going to change tempo on everything. So I'm using the tempo slider here. You can see it's affecting the TRS, and vice versa. The TRS is changing the tempo in Serato DJ. If I want to turn sync off, I hold Shift Sync, that turns it off. Also remember, the Aero Link port is syncing automatically anything that's plugged in there with a TRS unit. So these are all bound together through the sync engine. One last cool note, if you want to change the pitch range, all you do is hold Shift, and here in the pitch and time area, we see there it says range up and down. So we can increase or decrease all the way up to plus or minus 50 if you really want to get ambitious and get pretty crazy on it. So there you have it, beat grids and sync, super important to the functionality of the DJ-808. So make sure you put the time in at the beginning before you start jamming, and you're going to have much better results. Thanks very much. It's been Matt Shaquan, Recluse for Roland. You can check out these products and many more at Sam Ash.